Good evening, folks. It's Pedraza with Special Effects Academy. We're on the start of the week session in the Forex trading room for October 4th of 2020. We'll be going through our standard agenda as we start a new month and a new quarter, last quarter of the calendar year. We're going to be looking at the prior week, our currency strength meter, any fundamental announcements on the calendar, a look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Our long-term ledger, and this is going to be the normal. So for this past week, it was a pretty flat week, no significant movement on any of the accounts. We did have a very nice trade kicking off with the pound JPY on the long-term account. We had already scaled in, but on Thursday or Friday, we had a very sharp reversal, and we did get taken out collectively at break even. So a good start, but it didn't pan out. And of course, we'll be looking for our next opportunity to jump on that pair or any other that we see has a good pull. Intermediate term ledger, same thing. A couple of trades closed out, I think, but no significant movement on the account as such. The intermediate term account, of course, has been in a drawdown for the last couple of months or so. As we start to we will be doing a little bit of mitigation or remediation efforts on this account, so stay tuned for that. And what that will involve is an adjustment to the way we're attacking the trades for the intermediate. And again, I'll be providing more information as I scope that out, but we are aware of it and it is being addressed. The short-term ledger, as I said before, again, no net change, less than a percentage point of movement on barely 3 trades. And I do sort of apologize. Last week, of course, we had our live event and the schedule did get a little bit hectic. The event was amazing. We kicked ass there. We had a blast, but a few of the trading sessions were missed as a result of scheduling conflicts. So I don't know if the week would have been better or would have been worse or would have been just as flat. But we did skip a few opportunities here and there. So again, apologies for anybody who was affected by that. If you joined into a meeting and it didn't happen, we're back to normal this week and, well, business as usual. This past week, we saw a lot of volatility on the pound pairs. Again, we had a sharp reversal in the middle of the week towards the, it was either Wednesday or Thursday, I think. But what happened basically was the European Union threw out a lawsuit towards the UK on some of the Brexit issues that are starting to rear up. Primarily the issue with the border with Ireland. So that sparked a little bit of concern in the market regarding the pound, and the pound got pummeled for a bit. The recovery was already starting towards the end of the week, but again, we did get taken out flat on some pairs, some trades that were actually carrying some nice profit until that point. It did end up in an overall flat week board, both in the market as well as on our accounts. We were flat as the week ended. Commodities such as oil, silver, and gold continue to hold on to their gains from the past few months. And again, as I said, our live event happened. It was fantastic, and we're looking forward to doing it again sometime next year. Relative strength meter for the past week and the past month, if I can direct your attention to the columns on the far right. We see the monthly. We see that silver is kicking off the month quite nicely. After doing a bit of a retracement, silver is back up. Gold is also up, but not as much as silver, but still up is up. The rest of the currency pairs that we see there on the chart, really very little to no movement. None of them got anywhere near 1% as the month kicks off. And for the weekly, the past 7-day period, we did see some movers I'm going to say that, again, silver was the big mover at over 4%. Some of the currency pairs like Aussie dollar did some significant movements to the tune of almost, but not quite 2%. And really the Aussie pairs were the bigger movers, with the some of the pound pairs following somewhat behind. But again, no big movement for the past week. Fundamental announcements coming up. We've got a few. We've got the interest rate out of the Reserve Bank of Australia tomorrow, Monday night, 11:30 p.m. So that will be traded live. Very likely going to combine that with our what would have been our usual evening session. So we'll be having a very late start to our live trading this week to accommodate this fundy. See the emails that will go out with the exact schedule, so you know exactly when we'll be starting. Wednesday, we have the FOMC minutes out of the Fed. That's at 2 p.m. So again, that will be combined with our regular afternoon session. So that one will be instead starting a little bit earlier. We'll probably start around 1:45 or maybe even 1:30. Again, check your email for the exact schedule. And then on Friday, we have the labor report out of Canada, 8:30 a.m., all times US Eastern. So we'll be opening up the trading room early that morning as well. That's it. Not a heavy calendar for the week, but still some very good, usually good movers among what we do have: an interest rate decision, minutes out of the Fed, and labor numbers out of Canada. With that, we go into the charts. It looks like oil slipped somewhat this week, but again, we can see it's in the sideways range. It's towards the bottom of that range right now, but definitely not breaking out. It still is trapped sideways and is still holding on to its gains from the end of April through today. It's been quite a bit of a recovery. It's nowhere near where it was before all this COVID thing hit, but still it's much closer to that high than to the bottom of the chart. Euro dollar did a bit of a climb towards the start of the week and then went absolutely flat for the second half. So again, some movement there. Dollar losing ground, and we did see President Trump coming down with COVID as well this week, which probably didn't help the dollar, but didn't seem to have hurt it all that much either. So again, euro dollar ending the week sort of sideways, but did hold on to the gains from the beginning of the week. We can see that it is at support. It's traveling inside the Ichimoku cloud, and it is a rising cloud. So that is definitely support what we're seeing there. You guys know my bias right now is towards dollar weakness, so I would expect this one at some point to start trending back up, but seeing is believing. We'll wait for that to actually happen before we do anything about it. Pound dollar did a bit of a better job, and again, we had some very high volatility as the EU lawsuit hit the news cycle, but overall, the pound did well. It slipped down momentarily the day of, but then continued up. Wasn't a big sharp movement. It's also traveling inside the Ichimoku cloud after having bounced off the outer trend line there. And again, I would expect this one to go up in a way at some point, but we'll wait for that movement to actually kick in before we do anything about it. USD/JPY very flat. It looks like the market couldn't decide which it liked more or liked less, the dollar or the yen. Looks like on Friday, the yen got the benefit of the doubt and tried to go into a strength play, but it didn't pan out, finishing the week almost exactly where it started. USD Canadian did a very sideways beginning of the week and then started to show some movement into Canadian strength towards Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday it just hung out flat. It is also somewhere inside the Ichimoku cloud. It's between two levels of support resistance as well. My bias again is that this will drop at some point as we go into dollar weakness or Canadian strength or both, and we'll see a trip towards the bottom, which has a potential there for about, I'm going to say 300 plus pips there, 350, somewhere in that neighborhood. So definitely a good target to aim at. But again, I want to see it breaking out of the Kumo, maybe breaking that next level of support before we go in all guns blazing. USD Swiss had a bit of a rougher ride. We saw the Swiss lose ground significantly against the dollar the week before. Then it looked like there was going to be an almost immediate recovery into Swiss strength, but it never quite made its way back into the prior sideways channel. Instead, it lingered at the top of that channel at support, moving in both directions depending which day you looked at. So a drop at the beginning of the week, and then it sort of went sideways. Aussie dollar moving up into dollar weakness for much of the week and only showing a little bit of resistance there on Friday, and it wasn't much. It's right now it's hanging out also inside the Ichimoku cloud, and also my preference or my bias would be that this one is going to go up. Kiwi dollar didn't have any of the issues the Aussie dollar had. This one went up. It wasn't a quick mover or a strong mover, so there was a steady climb throughout the week, but it didn't quite make it to the top, maybe halfway to the top from where it was. So there's still quite a bit of room there for it to continue moving. All of these dollar pairs, I'm going to be eagerly watching the first 24 hours or so of market activity to see if we can get an inkling of what's going to be happening throughout the rest of the week. Aussie Canadian started bullish Monday, Tuesday, and then just went to sleep, going sideways for the remainder of the week. Again, also sideways in general from around June through today. It's at the support resistance level of a very thin Ichimoku cloud and traveling between a little bit of a wider support resistance channel. And this is one where I really have no opinion. I'll trade the breakout in either direction. We'll either short it if it breaks support or go long if it breaks resistance. Until then, we'll be just observers. Euro Swiss is the one chart we can pretty much ignore. It's just crazy. It's just jumping wildly in both directions, giving us long wicks, sometimes the very same day. So definitely not conducive to proper trading, and we'll continue ignoring this one. Euro pound, obviously the pound showing a little bit of stress, and the euro was the one who added the stress with that lawsuit. But all in all, the euro pound didn't do too poorly for the UK. We see this pair moving into pound strength. Even though it wasn't a big move, we can see it continue to steadily move towards the next support level. We'll see if it breaks. This is another one where I wouldn't mind getting into the action, but I want to see the move beginning before we jump in. Euro JPY still respecting support at that outer trend line. Did a pretty much of a thing. It went up on the beginning of the week. It went up significantly, then went sideways, and finally ended Friday coming back down almost to where it had started. So a pretty nothing week for the Euro JPY. It looks like the Euro and the Yen are fighting it out, not just on this pair, but in many other of their respective crosses. And the jury is still out as to which way it's ultimately going to go. Euro Canadian, another one where we see that the euro is having the fight of its life, or at least of the month, and really couldn't, neither currency could get the upper hand. We had some pretty sharp movements a couple of days in both directions, ultimately ending where it started, so nothing really happened. As I mentioned in one of the very early slides of this deck, we almost across the board had a very sideways week. Pound JPY, same thing, a bit of a attempt at a rise on the first day of the week, and then it just started going loopy and sideways. It's still below the resistance level of the Ichimoku cloud, but above another level of significant support on the horizontal. It's above a wedge as well. If it goes back into that wedge, we may see some movement towards the bottom. But I think based on the fact that the pound really has nothing too devastating going on right now, despite all the Brexit jitters, I think we may have a very good opportunity. And this was the pair that took us out flat after carrying a bit of a profit, a bit of a measurable profit for a while there. I think there's a good chance still that we're going to go up into the 140s before all is said and done. And that is a nice chunk of change. So we're already poised to re-enter those trades. In fact, I saw that we got taken into pound JPY as the market opened about an hour ago on the long-term account. So we're already back into this pair. We'll see what happens throughout the remainder of the week. Aussie JPY looking more bullish for the better part of last week, but on Friday it slipped. It went all the way back to support and then bounced. So ending the week, well, it's still a high note, but definitely not breaking resistance. Euro New Zealand is starting to trend down again, and this one does some very, very sharp movements when it starts moving. It's in a wedge, so we want to wait for the breakout from that wedge in either direction. I think we are in for a ride down, and we probably have a pending order still in place on the long-term account to take us in. We'll see what happens. Not holding my breath. It's been pretty erratic with this pair for a while now, but we'll see. Pound Canadian is just going crazy, moving in both directions, ultimately not doing much of anything. Both the pound and the CAD are starting to gain strength, and you can see that fight play out here. Either one of them could win, so we'll wait to see more decisive movement before we pick sides. And last but not least, pound Swiss recovering nicely from about, I'm going to say a month ago, with a little bit of a bounce here and there, but ultimately going all the way back up to resistance. Still trying to break that resistance, and of course it suffered, as did all the pound pairs early or around the middle of the week, but then started recovering towards the end. We do have at least one open trade on the pound Swiss, which is either at profit or close to break even, and we'll continue to let that ride. That's it for our charts, setups we see in progress. Of course, the pound pairs, I mentioned it before, we're on the lookout for some pound recovery as soon as a deal is signed with the EU. So my which may be imminent, my belief is that this lawsuit that the EU threatened the UK with was more a warning shot than anything else, and was more meant for the general public than for the UK government. They're trying to show that they have their hand on the wheel, that they're taking a firm stand. But I think the likelihood of a deal already being in draft somewhere in at 10 Downing or wherever the Europeans hang out is very likely. I think they've already ironed out the major details. They may be arguing a few minor points, but I think pretty much it's done, and we will see an agreement come out sometime soon. And when that happens, my suspicion is that the pound will shoot up. And well, this is why I've been placing pending orders all over the place to catch that movement. The U.S., it's the election, and the election. Nothing else matters. Even COVID has taken a backseat, except that President Trump has come down with COVID, officially acknowledged he does have COVID. He's in the hospital right now being treated for it. Doesn't look like the impact has been severe at all as regards his well, what we've seen of his demeanor and appearance. Doesn't look like it's one of the more critical cases of COVID. But they say out of an abundance of caution, they want him in the hospital, one of the military hospitals, Walter Reed. And the latest news I saw is that he may be released to go back to the White House as early as tomorrow. So that would have been maybe 2 or 3 days in hospital, which for a COVID infection, it's definitely one of the milder cases. Japanese pairs, the yen is starting to show signs of life. As we saw, it's been duking it out with a few other currencies. Too soon to tell what's going to happen. I am a yen bull. I think the yen is going to get stronger before too much time goes on. But again, seeing is believing. Same with the Canadian pairs. The Canadian dollar looks poised to move, but until I see it, it is speculation. And the euro pairs, the euro looks to be on shaky ground of late. We'll have to see how this whole breaks things out. It's impacting both the UK and the EU. So some of the lackluster performance out of the euro can be attributed to that, plus some other problems in the European Union. So waiting to see which way the cookie crumbles in this case, and stay tuned. And that's it. A few words in conclusion. I am very tired. We had our first on-site event. It was a blast. No complaints there. Everybody was happy. I think I learned as much as everybody else did on my part on the logistics for an event of this nature. And I expected that. Pretty much everything I do is at some point experimental in nature. And this was the first time we did something like this. So I learned some of the things that I need to have on hand, or things that need to be done differently in order for these events to be better. So the next one is going to be significantly better from all the lessons learned. I'm not going to be doing these very frequently. They do take it out of me. I pretty much lost my voice at some point from talking too much. So probably once a year is what I'm going to be shooting for. But definitely people left happy and excited. We made some good bonding and friendships and stuff. We'll be in constant contact with this group to make sure they start trading the right way and continue doing so. And I want to thank everyone who was involved. I was definitely humbled by the experience. And see you all next year at the second annual live Forex event at Special Effects Academy. And that's going to be it for me this start of the week session. Do I have any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, thank you very much then. And I will see you later in the week when we start our live sessions. Have a great rest of a weekend, folks. Bye-bye.